So, welcome, Elham from Sadri Law. It's been a while. You're not new here, and we have had the pleasure of interviewing you in different topics, and you have been really amazing in bringing topics that are very important for the immigrant community. And we really appreciate, you're very busy coming again to educate me and also everyone else who will be watching this. And today we're coming with a different topic. But before I do that, for those people who have not met you yet, could you introduce yourself, please, in your own words?
I'm so happy to be here again. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, so I'm Elham Sadri. I'm an attorney licensed in New York and California. I'm based in California, San Jose, though. I have been practicing immigration for over 10 years so far. Now we're helping our clients with their estate planning and setting up their trust, will, guardianship of their children, that type of stuff. And I'm so happy and excited to talk about it today with you and your audience. Yeah.
Of course. I'm also very happy because this is one area I don't think I have spent a lot of time thinking about or researching about. So,
Yeah.
to start us off, I mean, many people in immigrant communities like me may not even know what estate planning is. So, how would you explain in simple everyday language and who actually needs it?
Yes, actually, you're not alone. And a lot of people face that situation. We don't hear about it or don't know about it because we don't come across it until the situation actually happened, which most of the time, unfortunately, it's too late to go through state planning and plan something because the emergency has already happened and then we have to go through the route of court. So state planning is combination, the simple way of saying it is combination of some documents that everyone needs to have it over the age of 18 so that their personal affair can be handled in a case of emergency. If they are incapacitated in the case of death, how things are managed financially and non-financially. But the main thing about that is how things and personal affair are going to be managed and our family when we are still alive and we cannot make those decisions for ourselves, which unfortunately can happen, but it's going to be too late. And sometimes people think that, okay, whenever something happens to me, my family will figure it out. And I think it's going to be very hard. They will figure it out for sure, but they will figure it out in a very hard and painful way by going through court and a lot of expenses. That's the time they figure out how estate planning is important, and then they will do it for themselves for future. If we don't face those situations, that's why we haven't heard about estate planning ahead of time, how it could prevent those situations. I will explain more down the road, but I just wanted to point out that this is a combination of some documents that we need to have everything easier and manageable for our loved ones to help us when we cannot make those decisions and help ourselves. So basically, it's our responsibility for our own life to be responsible for our own affair and put everything in a document, give that power, legal power to my friend, to my family member. With that legal document, they can make those decisions on my behalf if I am incapacitated and still alive. Because they have to make important legal and non-legal important decisions about my life and my finances when I can. And first of all, it's a liability for them. Second, making those decisions is hard enough, but they have to go through the court to get those permission. That's additional pain and paperwork they need and time that they need to put into it and the consequence for that. So they might be able to act on my behalf, but they might not be willing to do a court part of it, which is time consuming. To me, it's expression of love and responsibility that we express it to our loved ones and family member around us.
I love that. I've never seen it that way. And like that could actually be love. And possibly I myself and a lot of other people maybe don't think about it because it's hard, right? To think about imagining yourself in that kind of state or your loved ones in that kind of state is very depressing. But the way you reframed it, that's actually love, kind of touched my heart. I just never saw it in that term. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it is hard. We don't want to think about those situations. Our natural way of living is to avoid thinking about negative and bad accident that might happen to us or our loved ones. But unfortunately, we have to be prepared for that. And there are a lot of us, we all are immigrant and coming from a legal system that might not have exactly same legal concept. That's why we haven't heard about that in our own legal system. And here we might be first generation of
Mm.
immigrants who don't have that elder family member who have faced that before.
Mm.
And yeah, so it's really expression of love and responsibility. And it takes just a journey to get to that point.
It is. And I really love how you reframe that. It makes the word itself very easy because when we're faced with, difficult situations like that, we don't know what to expect. And having all that sorted out, I mean, we're going to be overwhelmed and we're going to be sad, depressed. And this is natural when, either yourself or your loved ones, knock on wood, that happens. But having all of that taken care of ahead of time, it makes it easier. So thank you so much for reframing it in my mind, and I'm sure for others. So a lot of people think estate planning, including myself, is only for wealthy families. Why is that a misconception? I mean, why should every adult over 18 think about this?
Yeah, so that goes the way that I am talking about it, which is about taking care of ourselves and our own effort. The way that I think about estate planning is that one of many scenarios that it helps us is that we are still alive and we need people to make medical and financial and personal affair decisions about our life. And they cannot make those decisions without having those documents ahead of time. And when we say someone is already in a coma or someone already showing symptoms of Alzheimer, memory problems, so they already incapacitated, they can't make a decision to give that power of attorney or set up that trust to put assets into it, they cannot make those decisions anymore. It's too late. They have to do it through court. That's why it's important when we are healthy, when we don't have any symptoms of memory loss, we set up those documents and decide who's going to be our agent whenever we are incapacitated. And then, yes, another part of estate planning is that through that document, we also say, okay, let's say whenever I am incapacitated, this person is in charge of my finance, medical, and other stuff. Whenever I pass away, who's going to be in charge of those assets or decisions, and then we also make decision
Mm.
how assets are going to be transferred depending on how much asset they have. The tax consequence is really like make a difference. If they put everything into trust and transfer to the next generation, they pay less tax compared to the time that they don't have a trust and it just want to go through the probate court. They pay more for probate court and taxes. But the thing is that the one part of it is about whenever we are incapacitated. Second part of estate planning is for after death, which the part that most people think, okay, it's about transferring assets and blah, blah, blah. That comes with that, yes. For transferring assets, it helps a lot. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are. In California, if you own over 160,000 ish, it's around that number. If you own over 160,000, then all your assets at the time of death should go through probate court. And probate court is very expensive. They can take up to 15 to 20% of your assets to transfer it to a family member, depending on how much is that. So thinking about housing costs and income level in Bay Area and California, a lot of people might have more than that at the time of death. And they have to go through probate court, which is very expensive. They can cost 15 to 20% of the money, their hardworking money, just go through the court for transferring these assets, which is unfair. So it's better to be responsible. If they want that money to go to their children, set it up a trust within few thousand, and then everything goes transfer through the trust, and it's going to be more affordable and reasonable to do that. So yes, most people think that this is for wealthy people. Not necessarily. 160,000 doesn't necessarily mean we're wealthy people. It also help when we are alive to manage our affair, our finances.
Is that also the case if the person has a spouse, kids? It doesn't go directly, whatever belongs to them doesn't go to their spouse or kids?
For the community property, no, but for the share of that person that needs to go through their children, yes, it has to go through that.
But part of it needs to go.
Part of it needs to go.
Oh my God. That's really, it's hitting me like, what? So, what are some of the most important documents people should have in place while, they are healthy before, like you mentioned, a medical emergency or unexpected situation? So, if I, for example, just write with my own handwriting, saying, I want this, just sign it. Is that enough or no?
It might be something the judge look into it if you don't have any other document, but it's not gonna act in replacing a planning system. So what we usually do in these cases is that we set up specific number of documents for our clients. Number one is living trust, is a document that would create kind of entity, but it's not really entity, to doesn't have an ongoing cost, but we create that entity and then they put their house or companies on their name of that trust, and then that trust is the one that is owning that house or company. And then whenever that person become incapacitated and can't do legal work with the asset, trust is owning that asset, not that person. So trust is not incapacitated, trust continue. And whenever that person die, that trust is still alive, that trust continue life. And then whoever is in charge as a trustee after death, trustee is going to be managing that assets and then distribute the beneficiaries. So that's number one document that we create. Second one is will, their wishes, whatever they forget or for some reason they don't put it into the trust after their death and they have to go through the probate court, they come and go to the trust, and then they will distribute based on trust, not based on the way that judge says to who. Another document is guardianship of children. If they have children under the age of 18, who's going to be guardian of those children? For immigrant families, that's the hardest part that we are dealing with. Who's going to be taking care of the kids if something happened to both parents, and
Right.
if they don't have an immediate family member, that's going to be a hard situation. Another thing is power of attorney, general durable power of attorney. Who's going to have power of attorney from them to take care of their financial affairs or anything else, why they cannot do it for any reason. It can be while they are incapacitated, or no, they're not incapacitated, they just cannot do it, or out of country, or stuck outside of the border, and someone else wants to take care of their affair. Another document that is really needed is the healthcare directive in a situation that someone is in medical situation like a coma and needs someone else to make medical decision on their behalf. That document gives them the power to make those decisions. And then HIPAA authorization, who will have access to their medical document and information to make those medical or financial decisions knowingly about their medical situation. These are documents that we usually refer to when we are talking about estate planning, because it's a plan. It is planning for different scenario and situations in our life. Yes. And
Yeah.
this is a kind of a comprehensive plan. There are other plans that people talk about, will only or power of attorney only, healthcare proxy, which is only about the HIPAA and healthcare directive. So there are different things that people talk about it,
Yeah.
but what's important is that make sure whatever you are preparing is a comprehensive and it's covering all of these aspects of your life in one document. So what I prepare for my documents is usually around, for married couples, around 300-ish pages document that include all of this for both of them and their children.
Mm.
So that's basically what estate plan is.
Wow. That is really bigger than I thought. Like you said, I have heard some of them, like, some piece of it, like the medical directives and different things, but you're talking about the whole thing. And that is really something to contemplate about. And can you give us some examples of what happens, legally when someone becomes incapacitated and without any planning in place? How difficult that process become for families? I know you mentioned something about children if they don't have an immediate family, but can you give us more example that you have seen maybe?
Unfortunately, I have a couple of examples that
Mm.
is heartbreaking. There is a situation that a lady had a car accident and she went to coma. And she's pretty young, like early 40, married, no children. And
Mm.
she's been in coma for 3 months, 4 months now.
Oh.
And yeah, it's so heartbreaking, pretty
Mhm.
young. She didn't have anything in place and she's married. Husband has access to a lot of things, but the thing is that husband is devastated. And now for getting access to bank accounts and all of those finances, we have to go through court to get court appointed conservatorship order from judge saying that this person is adult, is incapacitated, this is medical situation, and we need court appointed conservator order. And the legal part is one thing, but I think what's the hardest part here is the emotional part of it, that the family has to deal with the court on top of everything else that they are dealing. And we're seeing that we have a hard time getting basic information and document from him because he's just so devastated now,
Mhm.
seeing his wife in coma for this time, and then an attorney bugging him, give me this document and that basic document to get a court appointed document, that in order is just so devastating. So
Yeah.
it's the pain that family go through. I'm not even talking about the financial part of it. It's just I don't think that's important in this situation. The pain that family is going through is a lot. And then they, on top of that, they have to deal with the legal system and court system, which I can understand how frustrating and exhausting it.
It is. Yeah.
That's one of the situation that I don't think anyone wants for their loved one to happen.
No, I cannot even imagine dealing with the court system without having anything going on in my life, let alone something that big. So I'm
Mhm.
sorry to hear about that, this family, and hopefully, she wakes up.
I
And,
hope, yeah.
I send my prayers.
Yeah.
It's very devastating. So, can you explain what a power of attorney is? And I know you mentioned it a little bit. If I ask redundantly, it's because I'm trying to understand it more. Why it becomes so important in situations, involving illness, like the one that you mentioned, for example, if he had a power of attorney, how
Mhm.
easy would that make their lives?
If in a situation like this, a person who
Mhm.
she trusted when she had sound mind and sign
Right.
saying that this person is going to have my power of attorney, that person can sell a house on her behalf, can withdraw money or deposit money into her bank account, can close stock account, can open stock account on her behalf, any financial decision. So that's important to have someone who you really trust, but also having someone who can take care of those matters is also important. But yeah, that person can make all the decision on behalf
Yeah.
of that person by showing that document to bank accounts or financial institutions.
Yeah. It's reminding me of, the times that I have given power of attorney for my brother, my sister back home, and those were for easy things like, getting access to my documents, my original documents so that they can go and get those documents on my behalf, or anything to do with passport, like I gave my dad power of attorney so that he can acquire passports for my son before they came here, something like that. Many immigrants come from countries where these legal systems don't really exist in the same way. A power of attorney, we're used to certain things, but for my life, it kind of automatically, if something happens to, knock on wood, I mean, the legal system, we don't even have to fight. It would go just to my husband. Everything would go to my husband or my children. So in most immigrant countries, it doesn't exist in the same way like the US. So why do you think estate planning feels unfamiliar? Is it lack of education, or is it intimidation for so many families, including ours?
I think combination of all. Misinformation, lack of information is number one, that we don't know what it is. And many people that who knows what it
Mm,
is and come to me and talk to me, when I ask a lot, they figure out something happened in their life with elder people or their other family member that they figure out about this topic. That's something that they need to do. So lack of information, because we were not living in this legal system from our childhood. We haven't seen those previous generation dealing with this in their life. And then misinformation also, because a lot of people think that state planning is for wealthy people. So whoever actually heard about it think that it's for wealthy people. They don't know about the part of being incapacitated and needing these legal documents. So combination of all of this bring us to this. And I think, yes, education and educating community as you are doing is very critical for our immigrant community. We need to do it more and more. There are a lot of topics that I think we need to do more, play more role of education within our community.
I love that. And I'm so grateful for you for coming here to educate us on this, because this is really important and we don't really give it priority. We don't even look at it. So I really appreciate giving time so that, a lot of us can hear it, can educate ourselves and learn from you. So without creating fear, if we can shift a gear, could we talk about why, especially immigrant families, especially need emergency planning in today's climate where we are, including, situation, involving detention, travel issues, or sudden separation from families that we keep hearing about?
Mhm. Right. So there are a couple of these documents that I think is critical for people, especially if they have minor children who might not be undocumented or like immigrant, like some they have been born here. Having a guardianship document ready is very important, so that in case something happened to parents, someone else who is inside the country who is available and who probably will be notified immediately that something happened to the parent will take care of the kid or pick them up from school if parents are picked up by ICE during the day. So those are one of the scenario that are really important. Another one is power of attorney to make, just in case if they are detained, someone else can take care of their affair if they have a lot of affair going on, like finance company assets. It is helpful. These two are, I think, the main important ones. Then rest of it that I mentioned in whole holistic plan for estate planning depends on everyone's circumstances and finance situation and asset situation. But these two, if they have minor children, it's really critical for everyone to take care of their kids. Because if both parents are not here and there is no immediate family member around, unfortunately, I don't really want to create fear, but the system has to put kids in foster system. So whoever is going to be appointed as the guardian by court, which take time, but I'm sure no one wants their kids to go through foster system if they have a reliable person to take care of their kids while for any reason they're not available, including immigration matters.
Wow. And I'm just imagining that what I would do if, my kids are in that situation, and it's really heartbreaking. And if there is a way we can avoid that, it's really good
Yeah.
to think about it ahead of time. So, from your experience, if you don't mind sharing, do you have any example of where this happened, especially with the situation around because somebody delayed planning or they haven't had that happen to them?
So I have a case of one of my colleague, not mine, that parents went out on somewhere. They went out on Saturday nights
Mm.
and they hired a nanny to take care of a kid, but they got into accident and they couldn't come back home. Then nanny, they got late. Nanny reached out to them, called police. Police got involved, and then nanny had to go back home eventually at the end of the night or by morning, right?
Yeah.
And parents were not able to come back home, and there was no immediate family member around. Police couldn't leave kids at home or leave them with nanny because nanny was not responsible for them,
Right.
and they had to put the kid in foster system until parents, like one of them were killed in a car accident, the other one was in coma, so until the other one wake up. That's a situation that is losing family is already heartbreaking and hard for the kid. Going through foster system in that situation is also scary for the kid.
Right.
But yeah, that's the situation. Unfortunately, it's so heartbreaking and devastating. And I really hate to say those as an example,
Yes.
but because we all try not to think about these scenarios and avoid that. But that's one of the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story because it makes it really real. And I mean, every day we don't want to be afraid, but every day we're afraid anyways. What we see in the news, what we hear from other people, and this is actually a good fear for me because it, like, sometimes the fear can lead you, oh, I don't want this to happen to my kids, or I don't want this to happen to me in case this happens. So I'm going to take action to take care of them. So thank you for sharing
Mhm.
that story. And what are some simple first steps someone can take today if they realize they have nothing prepared?
I think the simple way of approaching it is that,
Gonna be taking notes.
right. I think the simple and most effective way is to reach out an attorney regarding that there's a procedure that each attorney follow to set up these documents. Something that when people come to me and that's something that is holding them back is that I don't have anyone in the United States to be my agent for power of attorney or blah, blah, one of those situations that we're talking about. But doing nothing is worse than coming and preparing it. So another thing is that a lot of us who might not have that privilege of having a family member or trust person around us, and it's understandable, but we have to make up something, figure out something, a plan.
Mm.
Something that I've seen people do is that there are friends, they make it work with their friends who have kids, and they come to an agreement with each other that if something happened to me, I will take care of your kids. If something happened to you,
Mm.
I will take care of your kids. So these type of agreements they make among themselves, whoever has a good relationship with their kids too, or for their financial and medical power of attorney, whoever they trust, they set up as the person having those powers. But the simple way of doing it is just to start doing it because it's better than not having this document and something happen. Having something is better than not having something because just imagine something happened to someone that thinks they are not setting up this estate planning because they don't have a family or trusted person. if you don't have someone who will be in charge of your affair when something happened to you, who's gonna go to court and get a judge order when you are
Mm,
incapacitated, if you don't have that close person, right? So probably you don't have that close person to go to put that enough time and energy to deal with court system, get the order so that they can do something. So that's why it's important. It's making it easier
yeah.
for someone else to help us when we need that help.
I love that. And, it's a good thing that we are having this conversation in a community level because this is not something that I see anywhere. I have never heard this thing discussed about, which is good because it's going to educate a lot of people. But how can families begin having these conversations? I mean, with parents or loved ones who may avoid talking about illness, aging, or death. Do you have any advice for that?
That's a tough one. That's a tough situation and that's a tough conversation that I have to talk about these the worst case scenario of our life situation that may never happen in our life, but I always have to give those examples to my clients and say, okay, tell me what you want, what is your plan in that situation. That's a really tough one. I personally, the way that I approach it is by giving example of my cases that I try whenever I'm talking to community about these matters. I try to talk with example because
Mm,
every time that I'm talking about estate planning, the concept is not relatable to people. They don't relate to it. But when I
mm,
give an example, like the that I gave you about the parent getting into accident and the kids went to foster system, or the other one in coma that we need to do conservatorship order. When I give these examples, people start understanding what we're talking. So I think getting to know what scenarios are the
mhm.
ones that we need these documents is number one. And then talking about those scenarios maybe help other people to think about seriously taking action on setting up their plans rather than just talking about estate planning in general. Yeah.
Yeah, those are really good. So you do educate communities through your platform. Tell us
I
more about
do.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
I sometimes Zoom session, online Zoom sessions that I talk about immigration and state planning and topics that I feel like are needed for the community and the clients. I also talk in community centers and senior centers on these topics regularly to educate people. Those organizations that are asking me to go and talk for their members on the topics that they think it's important, including estate planning and immigration.
That's really amazing and very important because community education is very important. And during your teaching the community, what are some of the biggest myths or misunderstandings you regularly hear around estate planning, other than the that we already talked about?
Right. The ones that I see a lot is that they have estate planning, but they haven't updated for a long time, maybe 10 or 20 years. Things have changed. The people that they said is going to be their agents for any of those roles are not, their relationship is not that close anymore, or they don't exist anymore. Another thing is that they set up trust and documents, but they actually don't fund that trust. What
Mm,
it means is that they don't retitle their house and assets into the trust. And they paid lawyer, they created this beautiful document, but
mm,
it's empty. It doesn't work at all. I actually had another client with that husband passed away. They had a house. They set up a trust. The husband was diagnosed with a cancer a few years ago.
mm.
They figure out they went and set up a trust. They decided the house goes to the trust, but they actually didn't retitle the house. Husband passed away, and for some reason husband changed the house it was under his name, and then the house had to go through probate, and all of those fees had to get paid to probate court and tax before it got transferred to family member. And it was so unfair, so we filed a petition with courts, a specific petition and very
Mm.
exceptional, saying that hey, this person had intent to put it under the name of trust, but for some reason he didn't, and these are all the evidence, and then put it into the trust, and judge approved it. So we could under very exceptional situation, it was possible, and that person meet the requirement. So we could put that under trust after death. But the main problems that for other situations, they would not be happening. And it costs a lot on the wife to put it into trust.
While mourning.
They
And
could do
yeah.
it while he was alive and with just a couple hundred. That's also another thing that people miss to do that.
Mm,
Yeah.
wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I think for a lot of immigrants, for most of us, I mean, legal documents, paperwork tend to overwhelm us. And that's what we think about. And I know you mentioned a little bit about love. What can estate planning teach us about responsibility, love, and protecting the people we care about? Can you touch on that more? I know you talked about it, but
Yeah. So the thing is that, again, I don't want to go through the worst case scenarios that may happen in our life, but just imagine something happened to a person. And for me, it's happening a lot. I see a lot of people in coma,
mm,
but other people might not
oh my
see
God.
that many people in their life.
Yeah.
That's true. I see that a lot of those people, that someone is in coma and then, or have Alzheimer. They can legally, they can't make a decision on their life. Or if they go to the bank, the bank officer cannot do whatever they want because they clearly have those symptoms. If someone else, their daughter,
Mhm.
wants to step in and make those decisions, first of all, there is responsibility for that daughter. She
Mhm.
would be responsible toward rest of family member. Who told you to go and do it? Or who told you to make that decision this way or that way, right? Who told you to take that money or sell that house? We don't know if mom or dad agreed to that. And then also, if that person wake up from coma and come back and say, well, why did you sell my house? Why did you do that? Who told you to do that? So
Mm,
that's the problem. I mean, that person cannot do it without court order appointment, but it would have been ethically and emotionally better if she had that permission from mom to be protected. Legally, she's protected, but she can be questioned, right? And then also for medical power of attorney, there are decisions throughout the process that needs to be taken by that agent, daughter, or whoever. I discussed it with my client that there are decisions. God forbid someone is in coma, and then if they want to prolong their life at any cost,
yeah.
or if the cost and the situation is that if they will have irreversible consequences, they might not want to stay alive, right? So those decisions are something that it's better to be made by person itself, documented, and then that family member or whoever just carry on, not to have make that decision. So those decisions are items that we have on our document and ask client to make it, mark it, and then those people can follow that instruction. So it's going to be much easier for family member who's going to make that decision based on the person's recommendation that I don't want to stay alive if I cannot move after that at all. So,
Mm,
or whatever, or I want to stay alive no matter what situation I am in. So those are the decisions that I think it's very emotionally expensive for family to make, and it is our responsibility. And also, we are the one who is going to face living with the situation if we decide to stay alive in specific situations. So it's our responsibility, and if we don't want it, we need to make it clear for everyone to do it for us. Those are the situation that I think is very emotionally hard for family member. And if we really love them, we shouldn't put them in that situation.
mm,
And it's our responsibility for ourselves to
mhm.
make that decision for ourselves so that someone else doesn't have to make that decision for us. And we make it easier for them to just do it. That
What
love.
the person needs. Yeah.
Mhm.
That makes sense because if they want to stay, then knowing that we can love them in that, right? Taking care of them. But if they don't want to stay, no matter how much you love them, no matter what you do, if not their wish, then nobody's happy. So yeah, I can totally see where that would be useful. For someone who's listening right now, who feels maybe overwhelmed by this topic and the heaviness of it, what would you want them to remember?
Just remember, this is something that you need to do to take care of yourself first, and then expressing your love to family members that you don't want to put them in a hard situation. Whenever you're ready, just pick up a phone and call a lawyer to start the
Yeah.
process. They make it easier for you, but it's just our responsibility for our life. Like
Yeah.
getting an insurance. We all have health insurance, right? No matter what, no matter how much income we have health insurance. This is an insurance too.
I love it. Makes it easy. There are people like you out there who can make it easy, because most of the overwhelm also comes from thinking about the documents and all of that. So thank God for people like you. And I would like to make an appointment right away. So
I'll
how
be
can
happy
people,
to.
right? So how can people learn more about your work, educational workshops and the services you're from?
So, if anyone wants to be on the list of our future workshops, they can email me so that they can add them to their listserv for future workshop on these topics at info@sadri-.com. And if anyone wants to start talking about this for people from your audience, they can call our office or email
Mhm.
the same email info@sadri-law.com, or call our office at 408-416-3000 to set up a time with me, and I'd be happy to talk to them about what they need and how we can help them.
Right. Thank you. And we will put all the information with the caption on YouTube. But is there anything else that we haven't talked about, I have not asked you, that you would like to leave us with?
I think we talked about almost all aspects of it, and I really appreciate what you're doing. That's really needed in our community, and that means a lot that we do these educations for the community. And thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Of course, my pleasure.